It's another end of month roundup. There's a few changes, nothing unexpected, so I'm just going to get stuck into it. Back in early March, I had my council tax bill through, and I think we were all expecting bad news on that front, with 5% increases expected across all councils, I think. I calculate my council tax in two ways. So we have the calendar year, which is the bill that you get from the council, but because I manage my finances on the calendar year, which is January to December, that's how I calculate it for my yearly outgoings. So my actual bill for this year, bearing in mind I am in a Band A property and I get the 25% discount because I live alone, my bill for the calendar year for 23 to 24 is now £1,042.90. Last calendar year it was £991.68, which is a total increase of £51.22. What that means for me in terms of my January to December year is an increase of £49.22, because at the beginning of the year I'm paying the last of the council tax for the 21-22 year, and then when it starts again in April, because you have those months off, when it starts again in April you're on to that new year. So that means that last year I paid for my January to December year £988.68, and this year is going to be £1,037.90. So as I say, that's a rise of £49.22 from the January to December year for my accounts. That, in terms of direct debits, that means that most of my direct debits will go from £99 a month to £104, which is doable for me, but for someone who's on the craziest of strict budgets, that extra £5 a month could be enough to seriously knock your finances. I think that the council tax rises are purely down to inflation and purely down to what's happened in the last year or the last few years, because I think there's still a lot of roll on from the pandemic. I would say we're definitely not getting any extra service for that money. This is purely price rises. But what can you do? It's a bill you have to pay. It's not like you can just say, oh, I'm not going to pay it this month, because you end up just in tons and tons of debt. So you're stuck with it. You've got to pay what you've got to pay. What can you do? One of the other bills that's gone up for me this year is breakdown cover on my car. Last year, my policy it's a premium policy, so I get everything covered in it, was £28.75. This year, and each year they've been really good about the renewal prices, they've consistently gone down. This year, however, it's gone up to £45.42, which is almost double the price. My knee-jerk reaction, of course, was to go and look for other quotes, and I can get breakdown cover for less than £20. However, my current policy includes two things which the other basic ones don't. One is key cover, so if I lose my car keys when I'm out and about, they will sort that for me. And the other thing is, it doesn't come with an excess. Looking at the renewal policies, if I go to other companies, the cheapest full UK cover I can get is £19.70. But that includes a £40 excess. So if I call out, I have to pay £40. Now, although I don't call out very often, and in fact I haven't used my breakdown cover since 2020, if I was to use it, that I'm instantly £40 out of pocket. Plus, these new policies also don't include key cover, which puts the price up to almost £40, which is only £5 off the existing policy I have. So where I was going to cancel my renewal at £45.42, it's probably in my interest to stick with it, because by the time I've added the extras to the other policies to make them like for like, so adding the key cover and removing the excess payments, it's going to cost me more than £50 to get that new policy. So it's always worth, when you are looking at insurance quotes and looking to compare with existing policies, because you might be changing. And the same with breakdown cover, always check what you're getting for the money. I could take a chance, go with the new policy and take the £40 excess based on the fact that I haven't had to use them for a few years. But what's the betting that is this year isn't the year that I have a flat tyre or a flat battery, or I lose my car keys, or the car breaks down. Don't forget, my car is 11 this year, and we're running into that area of things may go wrong despite having a good MOT and a service every year. Cars can always break down. You cannot guarantee that it's not going to break down. I've been very lucky with my car. Touch wood, it's always been a gem, but I would hate to think that I was constantly driving around worrying about breaking down, because I've then got to pay that extra £40 they wouldn't have had to pay. And for the sake of what, 28, 38, 15, say £15, it's only £15 more than last year's renewal. So I've really researched this. I've gone to all the comparison sites. I've re-looked at my policies. I've looked at it over and over again. And to be honest with you, I think for what I'm getting compared to what I would get with another company, this does actually work out better. So it's really annoying that I'm having to pay an extra £15 this year for my breakdown cover, but everything's going up. I am surprised, but what can I do? I have experience of the company that I'm with now, which is Emergency Assist. I have used them in the past, and they've always been fantastic. And I would hate to go solely on saving 20 quid and end up paying more or getting a worse company. So there we are. I've had to bite the bullet, and I'm paying more for my breakdown cover. Hey ho, what can I do? This month's energy bills haven't been too bad. I've mentioned before that I switched off my boiler at the wall on the 12th of February, and I've managed to keep it off right until the last day before my next reading, which was the 11th of March, when we had another cold snap and the snow came in. Luckily, it didn't get as cold as it did back in December when we hit -8. We had a -5 night, and I put the heating on for one night, but that was after I'd done my reading. So this month is completely heating free. We had a little bit of snow, but it wasn't anywhere near bad as predicted or as bad as many other places. So, you know, we had a light dusting of snow, and it was gone by lunchtime, and it hasn't really snowed again since, actually, even though the weather keeps saying it will. It doesn't. So I've managed to use 7 kilowatts less on the electric, and that's probably just because the nights are drawing out, the lights are going on later, and that's just an accumulative effect. I've managed to almost halve my gas usage, so I've only used 68.5 kilowatts. That means that my bill for this month has been £43.84, which in fact is more than £10 cheaper than last month. But when I compare to this time last year, when I well, I used roughly, I used more last year actually in gas and electric. Not an enormous amount, but I did use more, and that only cost me £27.34. So my energy has pretty much doubled, as everyone's has. This month, March, is the last month that we get the government help, so that's £67 in, and the value of my direct debit, £35.93, returned to me because of that £67. That's the end of that, as far as I'm aware. I think that they've extended the cap so to stop the price rises once that government help ends. So theoretically, my bills should now drop quite a lot because, you know, we're now into spring. There's no reason on earth to need to put the heating back on. I'll be probably boiling less kettles because as the weather warms up, I'll be drinking less hot drinks, and I won't be using my hot water bottle soon enough. So that will all help, and hopefully I can get my bills down to about £40 a month. But we'll see how that looks because there are so many price rises and it's really hard to keep up with things at the moment. I've bought a new gadget which is going on my discretionary income this month. It's not really a gadget, it's not even a treat really. It's one of these. I've bought this for my car so that when I'm out on road trips, like the car camping road trip, I can attach my the second phone that I now have for just recording like I am now to the windscreen, and then I can record journeys and cut some of that in, because particularly I'm doing long road trips like for my car camping trip, there's going to be a lot of time spent on the road, and missing the lovely scenery or the road trip will be a shame because that's going to be half the trip gone otherwise. So I bought this on eBay. It cost me £5.99 and it'll do the job. I have another car cradle in my car which I use my regular phone for my GPS, for Google Maps, things like that. But this means that my second phone is now freed up to be a proper camera phone. I'm going to test this and we'll see how we get on. Following on from that entry about the car cradle, you'll probably already have seen that I tested out the car cradle, the mobile phone cradle, back on the 20th of March, and it wasn't a success. The arm is too long, so it creates vibration from where it's stuck to the windscreen down to the phone. It needs to be more static. I've managed to work that out. I had two other car phone cradles from other devices I no longer use, and they all kind of come apart and slot together, so I've cobbled together something which I think is going to work much better, and I am going to test that out. In the meantime, I bought something else for the car, and it's because I'm now going to have two phones running in the car at the same time, eating battery. I've bought a twin USB charger for the car. I already have the two cables because I have a car charger anyway, and then I can have both phones plugged in, because if I'm going to use the camera phone, the one that I just use as my camera like I am now, to do long journeys, particularly when I'm car camping and I want to record quite a lot of the journeys so you can see the scenery and see where I'm going and all that sort of thing, that's going to be a battery drain. So I've bought this. Again, this was about £5.79, so I haven't spent a fortune on gadgets. It works out at about £11 for the two. Good old eBay. So yeah, bought that as well, but I promise I'm going to be good here on out. I'm stashed up with all the gadgets I now need for the car and for going out and recording other things, really. My end of month roundup for March is a little bit all over the place, for which I apologise. I tried to record as much as I could before I came away to stay with my parents, because I didn't think I was going to get the time to record all the bits I needed to by the date that I was supposed to release this, which would have been, well, today. I was going to put this on a Friday because it's the end of month. So I recorded as much as I could before I went away, and then my phone camera corrupted on the way down here, and some of those small segments were lost. And I talk about this more in another vlog. It's just a frustration of mine at the moment. So I'm doing some things retrospectively while I'm down here. It's not too much, but there were some things that I needed to wait until the end of month was actually here, rather than pretending it was the end of the month, so that I didn't have to record them after I got down here and struggled to find the time. Anyway, so this is one of the ones that was corrupted, and it's to do with food. So my food outgoings this month have been pretty low. I've spent £13.58 on food. I've been here for most of the month. There's only a few days I haven't been around for, but the weather's been really horrible in March, and there were lots of days when I just didn't want to go over and look to see if there were any yellow stickers. So I've just been living off of the huge supplies that I've accrued over time. So I spent £13.58 based on how I roll things on, how I do my spreadsheets. The predicted price, if I had bought everything I needed, would have been, I think, something like £35.51. But I wasn't going out much, so that most of that £13.58 has been things that I've pulled out. And every time, like say, I open a packet or I use a tin, that's when I count that as money spent on food. So £13.58 of actual eaten food. I bought 13 yellow sticker items, which isn't many because A, there haven't been many around this month, and I kind of lost enthusiasm. That gave me a saving of £5.23, and I also got £7.52 back from cashback apps where I was getting discounted or free stuff. I've also still been using, obviously, Nectar points with Sainsbury's, and I have the Tesco gift cards as and when they come through. So a lot of the things that I have bought have been free anyway, essentially, because I've been buying them on points, which again is why that £13.58, why that's such a low number. And I get most of that money back, most of the cashback money back on that, because as well as getting cash back on those items, I'm buying them for free in the first place, if that makes sense. So that most of that £7.52 from cashback apps was actual physical cash back, because I'd also bought the things for nothing in the first place, and you can do that. So that's not been too bad. And that's pretty much where I am with food at the moment. I will have about 3 weeks of food for April, because I'm still going to be down here for a bit. So hopefully April will also be a cheap month. My discretionary income has been up this month. I had the £49.82 with Peugeot at my MOT and service. There were a couple of gifts I bought. I spent about £12 on Etsy buying phone gadget things to try and make these YouTube videos more interesting. And I had the first of my yearly dental appointments, which happened just after, a few days after I got down here, which costs me £58 for basically a dental checkup, because of the joy of going private. So I've spent £138 this month in discretionary income. Most of this, I could have said, I'm not buying it. I could have said, no gifts, no presents for anyone. and that would have cut it down a bit. But you know what, sometimes I just hate not being able to do those things. So some of the gifts and things I got at the supermarket, there were things like bottles of wine, that sort of thing. So I did buy things for free or whatever because I had Nectar points and what have you. So that's what I've spent this month. It's not been horrific, but it's not been absolutely amazing. But it was all planned, it was all expected, there were no surprises in there. Income hasn't been terrible for March. I made 157 doing surveys, and I've picked up a new market research survey which I've just started, so hopefully that'll be paid sometime in April. Some of that obviously is Nectar points and Tesco cards and things like that, but it all ends up in the same pot. So that's not been too bad. My Etsy income is the best I've had so far this year, but it's still not a huge amount of money, and I'm working on that. If you're following my new channel, which I will link to in the notes, you'll see that I'm trying to sort out my self-employed, my business issues. We'll see how we go with that. That's going to be a long-term thing. So income's not been too bad. Interest rates have gone up, so some of my accounts have thrown a few more points my way. So hopefully that will make a difference. It's now the end of March, and in 5 days we have the end of a tax year. So I am going to do another short post on how the end of the tax year looks compared to just my normal calendar year, because it's interesting just to see how the figures change. I would say that some things have improved in recent months, like bank interest or what have you, but of course it's with one hand he gives and with the other he takes away. So the interest rates go up and I get more money for my savings, but of course mortgages go up, which means my rent has gone up. Obviously food prices have gone up, so you don't really benefit from it. It's tough. But yeah, so income's not been horrific. I have still had to use some savings just to top up a small shortfall this month, which is smaller than it normally would be, so small blessings there on that front. And yeah, so we're just still ticking over. So, you know, lots of stuff's gone up this month. Council tax has gone up and all sorts of things, and prices still continue to rise, and interest rates have gone up. So it's the usual thing. We're just kind of taking it day by day and seeing what happens. So that's pretty much the end of this month's review. It feels a bit disjointed. I don't feel like I've organised myself very well because I've been in different places and then I've lost footage, so I'm a bit like heads everywhere. Anyway, that'll do for this month. It's better than nothing at all, I guess. So thank you for watching. Speak to you soon.